Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, powered by Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective on YouTube and Fathom Realty. As always, my name is Charlie Sardelli, and I'm here with
Jameson Amaros,
Oscar Barra.
And guys, on this podcast, we talk all about real estate. We take real estate news. We take different tips and tricks, some myths we talk about sometimes.
Are you a realtor?
I am a realtor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Me too. I think Oscar is as well.
Yeah, we are all realtors. So
I'm
all
a
that
real
information.
I'm a real estater.
Realtor.
A realtor.
All that information.
One of the best. But one of the best scenes from Modern Family.
Yes,
is when Sophia goes, "He's a realtor." I don't know what that means, but it's important.
It's very important. No, honestly, guys, what that means is that we're in the market. We know about real estate, and as we say all the time, most people only talk about real estate, buy real estate if they're in the real estate market or they're looking to buy a house 1 to 3 times in their life, right? So we just want to have information here for anybody that's looking, whether it be a consumer, real estate agents, whatever it is. But while we do that, we always sip on some bourbon and drink some bourbon, try to lighten the load a little bit on topics, especially these days with the housing market, interest rates and all that kind of stuff. But it's not all doom and gloom, especially when you have some bourbon. And on today's episode, we're drinking Heaven Hill bottled in bond, and this is a 7-year bourbon. And Jameson, you said it has a little bit of a background to it.
Well, I mean, it's one of the oldest distilleries in all of Kentucky, and Heaven Hill is kind of the golden triangle of bourbon distilleries in Kentucky. So if you ever go, or if you've ever had Buffalo Trace, everybody knows Buffalo Trace or Pappy Van Winkle. They're all distilled within that Heaven Hill area. But these guys, Heaven Hill, they started in 1934, and they had a business opportunity to start a distillery, and they had a bunch of different investors that would come in and give them money. The problem with starting a distillery is you basically know from day one that at minimum you cannot sell your bourbon or product for 3 years, right? So how do you convince people to give you money? That was a problem that they ran into. So what happened was their partners actually pulled out and almost bankrupt them. So they wanted to buy them out for $20,000 in 1937, and they bought out their partners because their partners were like, "Yeah, dude, this is taking way too long." Which is, if you know anything about whiskey and bourbon, you have to age it, right? They expanded after that. I'm sorry. So what happened is they brought in some of Jim Beam's family to oversee the distilling of this product, and in 1935, they went ahead and distilled their first. The first bourbon, and it was a hit, an absolute hit. But
I mean, this
they burned to the ground.
At what point are you like, you know what? Maybe this isn't what we're supposed to be doing, man.
Yeah, November 7th of 1996.
Be like, we should just sell beer. We could make some money tomorrow if we sell beer.
Yeah, they because so what happened was it got hit by lightning, their warehouse, and then the fire broke the barrels. Okay, and remember, this is bottled and bond, so it's higher proof whiskey, and the barrels were flowing out into the streets on fire, which then started more fire. So it was essentially
a movie scene right there, man.
A flaming awesome. River.
Is that why
bourbon.
they call it Heaven Hill?
Yeah, a flaming.
And the Lord struck them
river.
down, and they still made the bourbon. Jeez.
Yeah, a flaming river of whiskey is how they described it.
Wow.
As a videographer, I want to
basically
make that
destroyed the distillery and 7 rick houses.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
So when did they come back?
So they ended up coming back recently. So the total loss of whiskey in the facilities was $30 million in losses. 92,000 barrels of whiskey.
Wow.
Damn.
Hell of an insurance claim.
Dude, right? Insane.
Was there insurance back then?
Yeah. So they ended up, they started distilling almost right away, right? That was in 1996. Their next batch came out in 1999 because they were able to use some other distillers like Buffalo Trace, for example, to help them kind of recover. And ever since, man, they've been going strong.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, that there's what's that, MG whatever?
MGK, I think.
Yeah, they have the juice already, and then you just finish it, so you don't have to wait.
There's like
forever.
They're like I would gather to say most of the bottles in here probably come from them, and then they add their own special twist to it.
And if you guys haven't heard from it or heard of it before, there's a couple of other bourbons that they distill that people might recognize. The first one is McKenna, which we rated really high.
McKenna's good.
Rittenhouse Rye.
Nice.
Another one.
That's good.
obviously larceny.
It's a staple. It's like a go-to Rittenhouse, right?
And it's very inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes great Manhattans.
Yeah. And then larceny, which is one of our personal favorites.
I love
larceny. Was up there. And larceny was only like $32, right? $32.
They also
cheaper sometimes.
Yeah, these guys actually bottle most of my favorite whiskeys. The other one being Elijah Craig, 1789 small batch. Pikesville, Old Fitzgerald.
Old Fitz.
Evan Williams.
Damn.
Yep. And then Mellow Corn, which is a straight corn whiskey.
See, it would be really cool to make a separate video on the channel where it's like we have these bourbons, but then we also have all the other ones that they do, and then just sip through them and try and taste the differences. Because I think we could do that now. This is, I think, 56 bottle 56.
56. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're able to do that now.
Now I hate doing this.
It better be a Friday night.
Right.
They also have awards, right? So they won the International Spirits Competition Gold in 2023. This San Fran World Spirits Competition.
They give it to everybody.
Man, if you want a medal in whatever distillery, you just go to San Francisco. They get participation trophies.
And then they won the Tried and True Challenge for the Ultimate Spirits Challenge in 2022. It's 100 proof, aged 7 years.
7 years, nice.
Yeah, bottled in bond, so it obviously adheres to very strict government regulations as far as how you can distill Kentucky bourbon.
You know what? Those medals and awards, you want to impress me? I want them to say, "Oh, we went out to Kentucky and grabbed like 100 old timers." And they said,
go to the backwoods.
Yeah, this
like
they
like
give
a distiller.
They rated it number 1.
Yeah,
that's how you're gonna impress me because
Yeah.
everybody has something from San Francisco. I
Well,
think we could make something, go to
That's a
San
good
Francisco
idea.
and get a medal.
That's a good idea. If you gathered all the master distillers, like make a show.
A
out of
master
it even.
distiller certificate or medal.
Yeah, where the master distiller. That would be a crazy cool
Were you
reality show.
Were you the one telling us that whenever you have the decanters,
Yeah.
right? So it's like the barrel.
I don't
the
bottle
bottom
kill
barrel,
anymore. I
don't bottle kill.
I
you
put it
them
into
in
a
there.
decanter. I have like half a decanter full.
Once that's full,
I'm gonna take it.
we could take it to San Francisco and be like, wow, the Mile High Perspective bottled in barrel bond rye bourbon mash corn whiskey won quadruple gold in the experimental something.
That's Well, and we say it all the time. Like everybody has an accolade from something.
Yes.
Right.
But
It's like realtors.
Honestly, it's what's cool about this guy is the color is darker.
Yep.
Right. And the fact that it's 7 year, I wonder what's gonna pop out more. Is it gonna be the oak, like the actual wood? Is it gonna be the char? Is it gonna be the caramel, like the sweetness of it? Because most of the time when we have these longer sitting bourbons, they tend to have a lot more of that wood flavor.
I had this early on. I don't remember the flavor profiles, but early on when I was drinking bourbon, and I think from what I remember, it's gonna be tried and true to old school bourbon taste.
What's the proof on it?
50. Or sorry, 100 proof.
100 proof.
That's
okay.
so, and we'll go ahead and specify this. So when a bourbon or whiskey is bottled in bond, there's I think four criteria that it has to meet strictly. First one, it has to be distilled in a single distilling season, right? So either between January through June or July through December. It can't span that in any way, shape, or form. It has to be aged at least 4 years. Okay. It has to be bottled at exactly 100 proof, which means different than barrel strength, where barrel strength, they don't add anything to soften the alcohol, right? Here, they will add water to bring it down to exactly 100 proof. And then it has to bear the name and number of the distilled spirits plant where it was produced. And if different, the DSP number of the bottling facility.
And that was a strict regulation, so you weren't drinking ethanol.
Speaking of backwoods Kentucky, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what bottled in bond means.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead.
Yep.
I poured this out. Let's go ahead a little bit ago. Let's cheers it up, boys. See what kind of notes we're getting from it.
Hopefully smooth Johnson.
Right.
This isn't Kenny G. This is more like Kenny Loggins.
I don't know if it's.
Oh yeah, Bad Mom's Christmas.
Yeah.
Kenny G. Great cameo.
Definitely that Oscar. I mean, right immediately to what you were saying, that old school bourbon. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
a lot of the time we have these higher proofs, these 100 proofs that it's either the ethanol is not present or the ethanol is fully present. And I think this one is, for me, like it blends very well with the nose. Like,
Yeah, it's very much what you want to smell when you're old
Still
school
get that
bourbon.
kind of vanilla caramel.
yeah, definitely getting a
Aroma.
little bit of wood, a little bit of cherry.
Yeah, oak and leather.
Yeah. A little bit of the cherry. Huh.
Well,
interesting. And I mean, like I said, I love the color on it.
Some
For being
vanilla.
7 years, it's a great amber.
I don't know if it's vanilla or caramel. My sniffer's off.
Yeah.
Been battling a cold that's been circulating through my house for like a month now.
I know. I think we all have. I've been sick for like a month and a
Jeez.
half. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take the first sip. I was watching some old videos, and JC in the first 2 episodes, man, he goes, it's time for a sippy sip.
A sippy sip, a little sippy sip.
He was always so cheerful,
A little
man.
sippy
He was
sip.
like, "Hey,
He got so
buddy,
excited. He always would
yeah,
get so
Time for a
excited.
sippy
It's a
sip.
sippy
It was awesome.
get this thing going." Man,
Little sipperooski. Sip sipperoo.
A lot more spice than I thought there was gonna be.
and a lot more herbal than I remember it,
Yeah.
and it's not.
I think the finish is nice and oaky though.
Yeah, it's like a not. I don't know. It's kind of like a dark herbal, if you
Mhm.
will. You know, not like
Well, I mean, and it's
not like a floral, but
like
Like a, yeah,
like a almost like
Like
an
a mint?
anise, allspice kind of
Yeah.
feel.
yep.
coriander.
It's like we always talk about complexity when it comes to bourbon, and even on the first, obviously your first sip of a bourbon, you always get the heat first. That's every bourbon sipper
This
is going
was
to tell
smooth
you.
up front,
Like,
though.
it mouth feels very smooth.
Mhm.
Doesn't burn too much. But again, we are
Right.
50,
It does give you a
know,
little bit of that
56.
kick though. I mean, it
Oh no, it's
maintains
there. It's
the ethanol, for
definitely
sure.
there. The burn sits on the tip of my tongue and on the roof of my mouth.
Mhm.
But like the evolution of this flavor is incredible as far as a sipper. Just straight up, you get the burn. Then I feel like you get the spice. Then the char barrel, the oak. Then it goes to that sweetness on the back end and sits more with that like caramel vanilla. And
Yeah,
I think
it does. It doesn't end with a bitter.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
It goes down and you get the burn, and that lingers, but you don't get a bitter note.
I think because there,
towards the
there's
end.
honey notes in there for sure. And
Yeah.
I think that rounds out like the oak and the
Mhm.
char.
yeah, you drink it and it's like, baby, lock the door and turn the
Yeah.
lights
Well,
down low.
I think to your point, like you said
It's
earlier,
Valentine's
this
Day.
is
Not to follow it up with being weird, but my mom was the one that turned me on to this bourbon.
nice. Hell yeah. Well, Jameson, you got a unique situation, right? Your mom just tried bourbon, started to like bourbon. Your dad still doesn't.
Still doesn't.
Yeah.
Except he will drink this.
Okay.
That's why when we were talking about it, because I was at the house and my mom was like, "Yeah, your dad, you know, he always makes the face."
Yeah.
And she goes, "But I poured him this, and he drank it neat, and was like, oh, this is actually really good." I'm like,
No, this is good. It has like
Yeah.
a sweet tart kind of.
Yeah.
Sweet, a
I'm
little bit
interested
of
to
tart,
see-
not bitter.
yeah,
I'm interested to
Um,
see how JC's glass opens
Yeah, my,
up.
my mom doesn't drink, and my dad doesn't drink hard
Mm.
liquors. He's a beer guy kind of guy,
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
I can never enjoy it with the family. My wife drinks bourbon. That's
Nice.
what we do.
Hell
I
yeah.
wonder if the natural evolution is like, if you're an IPA drinker, you'll eventually be a bourbon drinker. Because there
You got to acquire taste.
there are very few people that I know that just like pound Bud Lights and Coors Lights that are also bourbon
Yes.
drinkers.
Yes. Well, and I think at some point you have to realize if you're pounding Bud Light, you have one goal.
True.
You know what I mean? Like nobody drinks
hydrate.
Bud Light.
To
Nobody
hydrate.
drinks Bud
Yeah.
Light and goes, this is.
You know what?
This is great
Bud Light
beer.
Bud Light gives me heartburn.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm,
yeah.
I'm a Coors Light guy.
Well,
If
and
you
it's
can give me a
funny, like-
lager, I'm Coors Light.
I
See,
remember.
if you give me any kind of light beer, it's now, especially in my
Yeah.
advanced age,
Yeah.
the only one I can drink without feeling like absolute dog shit the next morning are Modelo's.
Yeah,
You give me
Modelo's are
Modelo's, I will pound Modelo's, and not even just
Well-
pound them. Like I genuinely believe they taste
That's
fantastic.
why last year Modelo overtook Bud Light for the first time in history.
Well,
Well,
that
they
and-
also had that.
yeah,
That
they had the entire middle of America go fuck Bud Light.
yeah, Kid Rock burning
True.
Yeah.
shit
True.
down
Yeah,
because
so that,
of it.
that also had something to do with it
Yeah.
because that was the one time that like I don't want to say redneck America, but conservative America was like, you know what? I know we said fuck immigrants,
Mm.
but fuck transgenders first. And you know what, immigrants, you actually make really good beer. So come on over.
Yeah, come on over. That's
You know,
awesome.
it's and they lost in the billions
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Months they lost billions of
Yep.
dollars.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Which is
like I
crazy,
just
man.
said, who normally drinks Budweiser or Bud Light?
Exactly.
Like, no,
Yeah, you're gonna
demographic.
take
Any-
it.
anybody
hold on.
at a
And this
Jason
is more of
Aldean
a
concert.
Dilfs and Dinks conversation, but you're gonna take a beer that's primarily bought by
See, this
Middle
is, we gotta write
America
these topics
in the
down.
Midwest, and you're gonna just get woke and then have a transgender just, hey, what's up, and then sponsor that. It's gonna have it's a wrath gonna be behind
well,
that.
Yeah, and it's not, don't want to get too far down into
Yeah,
the
we're not
rabbit hole.
condoning any of this shit. We're
Yeah,
just bringing up facts.
yeah,
All I said was Modelo's are fantastic.
But I think I remember when I first started drinking, like college wise, and I would come in with a case of Bud Light and I'd be like, yeah, I'm drinking tonight. And I didn't drink Bud Light for like, I think it was probably a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I had a sip of a Bud Light, and I remember like there was a mirror in front of me. If there was a copy of myself, I would have punched myself and be like, "What the? You
It's like
drink?"
those T-Mobile commercials.
Hold on, but so
it's like, hey, Common.
Yeah, like,
there's
nice
a
haircut,
story on my end about that. So one of my younger cousins was still in college, and we were having a party at my sister's house, and we had bought these legit tournament style beer pong tables.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I got it. I'm visiting you guys. I'll go buy the beer. And he was still going to Texas Tech, so he's still in college. He comes back with a 30-pack of I think it was Pabst or Natural Ice or some cheap beer.
Baby.
And I remember one of my other cousins, my cousin Fabian, looks at him and says, "Bro, we got jobs. I ain't drinking this shit." And he got all hurt. And I was like, dude, let's go get some Coors Light or something. I can't drink this.
My dad got super excited. He was over for the Super Bowl, and he was like, I was like, "You want something to drink?" He goes, "No, I'm good or whatever." And then we have a little beer fridge, and my buddy 2 weeks before had brought over PBRs, and he's like, brought like a 6-pack. I'm like, "Bro, we're not at UNC anymore. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Mike?"
It's crazy, but
my dad pops open the refrigerator, and he goes, "Oh shit, PBRs."
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
exciting.
people like them now, and
Yeah,
also,
so exciting.
I mean,
It's
marketing is fabulous. Bush
I was gonna say PBR is the
I would
say
Light.
is
People
the-
drink the hell out of Bush Light now.
Never
PBR is the regional choice of Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'll tell
You know
that
what? I
much.
drink Montucky. It's my
I'll
beer
tell you
choice.
what my dad also got though that I was proud of him for. He's got a connection to bring Yingling.
Nice.
from
Oh, that's a good beer,
Kansas.
though. Old
yes.
style and Yingling, you can only get out east. Those are
Yep.
good beers.
I grew up on Yingling.
There's
Like, I
a
remember
gas station in Kansas, east of Salina, that sells it now. It's the closest liquor store distribution deal that has Yingling. You can drive 3 hours, go get it.
It's an expensive Yingling,
Nice.
but it's
It's
good beer.
expensive Yingling.
Nice.
I ain't got anything else to do.
Coors Banquet. Let's go.
My dad's
Well,
almost retired.
I love the conversation around the alcohol.
But we got to
because
talk
this
real
is-
estate.
No, this is actually it's good, right? Because what we did today for today's episode, honestly, you've probably seen it across social media. Some podcasts are based all around this, but we figured this would be a great way to kind of get our hands in the minds of the public a little bit better. We all know Reddit is a phenomenal, kind of conversation area where so many people can share their insights, questions, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think my entire generation grew up learning most of their stuff from Reddit, right? So what we're going to do on today's
So
episode,
my Reddit's all messed up. I went down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
the algorithms changed on you.
Oh, yeah. It's bad. My wife's like, "What do you do?" I was like,
It was all watching those live AIs on TikTok. and
No,
stuff
it
too.
was bad. It was worse.
But we pulled some questions, some experiences from Reddit, and we're gonna go over them. Just have kind of an open conversation about it as we're drinking on the bourbon. So stick around because these are real life questions and occurrences that people are experiencing.
Well,
in
and
the
that
market
we've
right now.
experienced too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Right.
some of these I'm like, oh, I've been part of this.
Yeah.
So here's the first one. I'm the buyer. The seller lied about the furnace age. So here's the background. Recently purchased a home, and on the disclosure form, the previous owner stated that the furnace was less than 6 years old. They've already closed and moved in. Cut to a few months later, they find that the furnace is actually 24 years old. Is there anything they can do legally? Does it technically qualify as fraud, or is it one of those should have been caught in the inspection things?
Should have been caught in inspection.
Should have been.
Yeah,
caught in the
you call your
inspection.
inspector at that point.
Yep.
They're licensed. I don't know. You might go somewhere with it. You might not. But I don't care what the seller's property disclosure, because there's a document within our documents that once you go into contract, it's in the seller's good faith to tell you their best knowledge of the furnace. Because what if it's a single mom that there's a divorce and the husband took care of it, or vice versa, the husband didn't know anything, the wife took care of it, and she's gone. He has limited knowledge. He's not an HVAC tech. Hey, I think maybe it was just a service call and they thought they got it replaced. And to their knowledge, their best knowledge, they got it replaced 6 years ago and it was just a service call. So who's to say that they're not giving you the truth? It's your inspector's job to go make sure it's functioning. If it's 24 years old, there's going to be some shit going on with that furnace. The flames aren't going to be burning right. They're going to have some orange flames. And there's telltale signs. On top of that, he's going to look for the age of the furnace.
Yep.
So that's an inspection,
Well,
an inspector issue.
And to follow
And that's
up
a
on that,
big one.
It's huge. Well, and it's funny because I went through that experience with a client last year where I found him a condo. It was under his monthly payments. Checked 5 out of 5 boxes. His parents could walk to the grocery store. It was 2 stories. He could rent out, or 3 stories. He could rent out the basement. Everything. Inspection came out, and inspector is great. Chris Walters, shout out to you. I've used them for mostly all of my inspections so far. And, you know, as a real estate agent, when you get those done, it's one of those ball not in your throat kind of moments. You're waiting because at the end of the day, that could change an entire transaction, right? Everything on this property came back well and came back okay. But on his inspection sheet, he has 3 colors that identify different levels of issues. And there's red, yellow, and green. And, you know, while I walk through the inspection with him, we look at it. He's like, wow, man, these are actually really clean. The furnace is great. The water heaters looks really good. The flame looks good. But it is end of life according to our statistics, according to the info.
Yes.
Right? So he had to put on that inspection sheet, hey, these are end of life. And that killed our entire deal because something like that can end up costing you upwards of $10,000.
Yep.
See, and there's ways to negotiate around that too. It's it works, it's functioning. Really, if it's working, I'm not going to replace something that's working.
Mm-hmm.
So you come back and say, okay, well, let's get it certified.
Yep.
No HVAC tech's going to come back and say, okay, I'm going to certify this for at least 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's at the end of its. And I've seen furnaces. I've literally have seen furnaces that have been in for 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
I've seen brand new furnaces that fail within a year.
Yeah.
So it's
Oscar
a
makes,
crapshoot.
Oscar makes a good point. So if you're a buyer and you are worried about this, because in my head, right, when we do inspections, my main concern is major health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
Roof,
Big ticket
HVAC,
items.
plumbing, sewer, foundation,
Electrical.
right? Electrical. Those are the big kind of 7 that we look at. When it comes to something like furnace age, there are times, and you've seen this, I know you've seen this. The first thing I do when I go to the furnace and the water heater, I go and look for the plaque that tells me when it was manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
7 out of 10 times, that plaque's gone, right? 8 out of 10 times, it doesn't have a service call history. So what can you look for? If I'm a buyer and as an agent, we do this, there's a couple telltale signs. Oscar mentioned a few of them. Number 1, look at the pilot light. Is it burning a clear blue flame or is it burning orange or green or yellow? That means that there could be something faulty there. That's a red flag.
Sucks.
The compression, yep. Number 2, look at the drip pans below the furnace. See if there's any leaks, corrosion. You can usually tell by the drip pan itself, like, yeah, this motherfucker's
There's
old.
rust.
There's
You
rust,
know.
right?
And,
Number 3,
that
look
goes
at the
not only to the furnace, but that's AC too,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, look at
Condensation.
and I'm going to include water
And we're not
heaters.
we're not
Yeah.
HVAC techs
No.
by any means. It's just
No,
stuff.
but
that
I'm going to
we've-
include water heaters in this too because
Yeah.
that's another big one. Look for any signs of corrosion, right?
Yep.
If you are seeing pipe fittings
Mhm.
that are crusted over, calcified, rusted, etc., that is a red flag. Doesn't mean that it's not functioning correctly, but it's a red flag.
Yep.
Look for those things and have that top of mind as you're asking, hey, what should I look for from an inspection standpoint? To Oscar's point, if I'm a listing agent and the AC in the furnace and the water heater work perfectly fine, but they're old, I'm not going to be keen to suggest that we replace those things because you're essentially asking me to replace something that currently works. So that next step would then be maybe get somebody to certify it, because here's what happens, right? Let's say you're a buyer and you say, hey, I want you to inspect and certify a furnace in general, right? Costs like, call it $180 for the seller to do, maybe $200, not a big deal.
Right.
What ends up happening is that HVAC tech will come out and they'll inspect it. But if it doesn't pass specific check marks, they cannot certify.
Yep.
What does that now do?
For $180, you just found out
It gives
the potential lifespan. Of
And
the
it gives you a
appliances.
More than
negotiation
that,
standpoint.
It gives you a negotiation. And why does it give you a negotiation standpoint?
Because at that point, you could either get it replaced or negotiate, hey, you know what? It's still functioning, but how about I give you half of the money to put in a new one? It could go and
why would the seller want to do that?
Because no one's going to go in and will not.
Because
give you shit
where's
about
it have to show up now?
Now,
if they go back on market,
now they got to disclose it.
Yeah.
Now they
and
have to
let's-
disclose it.
Let's
So-
talk about another option that you have there as well that could be cheaper as a seller. Full home warranty, a 1-year home warranty. Right?
Correct. It is
And-
a little trickier with 1-year home warranties. You can do it. There's certain time frames
Yeah.
that you want to, like, usually it's like
You
3
get
months.
14 months, but then
But you still-
if they
you-
come and look at it,
Yeah.
they're gonna want to know it's functional
Yeah.
too.
But
Yeah,
if
well-
you get something certified and they cannot certify it, you can go to the seller and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this HVAC tech cannot certify this. So
And-
unless we do something about it, we're going to walk.
And
The seller's going to go, well, shit. They're going to ask their agent, well, do I have to disclose it's not certified? That or get a second opinion, in which case now they're
and I'm
spending
not
more
too
money.
sure because I haven't read through a warranty in a while. I provide them, but it's been a while since I've read through one. But I'm pretty sure there's verbiage in there that if the furnace was, if it was already old or something was wrong with it prior to getting the warranty, they'll give you a percentage on it only.
Yeah.
Correct. And if it hasn't been able to be certified, they will not warranty that repair work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and and what I was saying is at the same time though, instead of offering $5,000, and if you want to make it a little bit easier, you could. That's another option is to do a whole home warranty because it does cover major appliances like that. And obviously, there's steps that you have to go through and checks that you have to make. But the whole point of that is there's options, right?
Correct.
You can give a concession for it. You can get whole home warranty. You can replace it. But at the same time, and I think Jameson, you said these are a lot of for sale by owners, right?
This was from a buyer.
Just from a
Right,
buyer.
just from a buyer.
So in my mind, right, and the reason I think about it like this too is I'm currently helping a couple look for condos, and there's one that we're going to look at on tomorrow night that says this is listed as is. And to Oscar's point earlier, saying the seller's property disclosure is good, but you can't rely on it. In the listing itself, it basically says this is a property that was transferred over. The owner is technically in a nursing home. She doesn't have any prior knowledge. So as much as everybody says, oh, well, there's a seller's property disclosure. You have to understand that seller's property disclosures are as they know it now. It's
Right,
not, it does not guarantee anything for you.
At the end of the day, at least here in Colorado, our contracts are as is.
Yes.
They're not
By default,
they're
it's
not
as is,
saying that they're going to fix anything. It literally, when agents write this property sold as is, it's redundant. Our contract says it's as is, and it's up to the buyer to do his or her due diligence to make sure the house is up to par to where they want to buy.
And this is an important distinction to make as a buyer, because a lot of people will say, well, they're selling this house as is, so I either can't do an inspection or I can't ask for anything. Neither of those things are true.
Neither.
You can do whatever the hell you want as a buyer. You can ask for whatever you want as a buyer. It's up to the negotiation between the two parties whether or not they're going to do something. Because I know I've talked to people that go, well, I don't want to look at this house because it says as is. It means it's a disaster.
Every house is as is.
Right?
Yep.
Every house is as is. So go look at it. And then if you do like it, go under contract and understand you still have a right to inspect the property.
Even if they promote that the house is as is
Correct.
and the seller will not repair anything,
do it anyway.
it does not give you, it does not take away your right to do an inspection. You may not be able to ask for anything, but hey, maybe you're okay with what is there.
I'm
and
sorry.
you
Well,
buy
not
it.
only that, but
Even at the end of the day, if it's some small, say, hey, it's $100, so you're going to let this deal go for $100?
exactly.
Or what if this property is sitting on the market now for 200 days? The longer it's on the property, the seller is going to be more motivated to compromise as the property
You're going to
sits.
drop the price $20,000, or are you just going to put in a $6,000 furnace?
Exactly.
Yep.
What
Absolutely.
choose your poison.
Absolutely. All right. What's the
All right.
what's our
one.
next?
This
What's
one-
our next one from the Reddit archives?
This one actually surprised me. So this one, the headline is, "Are we shortchanging ourselves by not rate shopping?" Surprised me for two reasons. Number one, they're working with a realtor, obviously, that wants to have them work with a preferred lender and is putting that above what's best for the client, which should never happen. Number two, 76% of home buyers only shop one lender.
And as a realtor,
It's
how
wild.
many lenders should you
Three.
promote? Three.
Yep.
Three. Always three.
So here is the story, right? Once upon a time, my partner and I have been looking in southern New Jersey for 2 years. It's a competitive market and taxes are high, which they are. We finally found a house we love and we're going to see it today, listed for $275,000. Must be nice.
Damn.
Must
a house,
be nice.
A house for
That's Jersey.
$275,000 in New Jersey, probably in like Newark. Thinking if all goes well, we'll offer up to $285,000. We are pre-approved. Working with our realtor's mortgage guy, he quoted us a 7.1% interest rate, right? Which, if you guys know right now, that's probably par rate, roughly, maybe with a half a point for most people, not credit unions. We can get into that, why it's important to shop. We both have a 792 credit score. I want to rate shop.
They should
Partner
get like
thinks-
a 5.5.
Partner thinks it is what it is. How can I approach this with the mortgage guy? I've spoken to some people who said they have a guy who can get 6 something, recommending Rocket or a credit union. Any advice? Together, we bring in almost $150,000, and it is so frustrating. Oscar, I'll let you take this one off.
You know what? I rate shop all the time. We have tons of friends that are lenders, and they know. And they know that we know other lenders. And I think some lenders have different guidelines, and, it's whatever gets the deal done for the consumer. But I always tell the consumer to shop it. Shop it. I've shopped them for you. Here's the 3 that I think have the better rates, because at the end of the day, it's also who you get along with.
Well,
if they don't get along with the other lender, then shoot them to the curb and you go take a half point higher.
I think the
don't care.
most important thing to emphasize here, going off of last week, a myth around lending, and something that not a lot of people really know, from my own experience, is when you start from the second that you get pre-approved and your credit is pulled, you get a 30-day window to shop different rates, and that will not affect your credit, because
Well-
so many people believe that, oh, if I go from this lender to this lender to this lender, now I'm taking 3 or 4 hits and my credit's going to be even worse.
But not even that. You could have the conversation with them and say, hey, I don't want you to pull my credit. Here's my
Soft
story.
Yep.
And they'll either run the scenario and say, hey, this is where this is the threshold of the rate. And then you decide, okay, then they could do a soft pull, which won't affect you. And within the lending world, if you go car shopping and 4 dealerships for your credit, it's going to drop it regardless, 30 days or not. With the mortgage side, I think up to 3 or 4 could pull it without it dropping your rate.
Yes.
Now, the underwriters are going to come back when you're getting close to closing and say, why is there, 4 inquiries from other lenders, what's going on? And then you tell them, well, I was shopping.
Well, and here's so two very important things. Number one, we hear about this all the time, letters of explanation, right?
Yep.
The underwriters
LOX.
like. So if I am working with somebody who's good and I am able to divulge the full story, hey, these guys have shopped 3 different people before, so on and so forth, my lender would say, awesome, let me just have them email me why they are shopping for 3 or 4 different rates, so I have that on file. So inevitably, when underwriting comes back and goes, hey, why did their credit get pulled 4 times in 27 days by A, B, and C, that letter's there, done. Now you just saved 2 or 3 days, right?
Right.
The second piece is, and Charlie, I want you to go over this. As a realtor, what does it mean when we say we have a fiduciary duty to our client? And how does that relate to this?
As a realtor, it is our job to make sure, and I'm going to make this as simple as possible. It is our job to make sure that the transaction is the best it can be for you, regardless of any other factor. Fiduciary means that everything that I do is in the benefit of you. I have to make every decision to make sure that you're getting the best deal, the best information, the best opportunities ahead of you. That is what a real estate agent should be doing.
Your best interest is my only objective.
Exactly.
And that should lend itself to whoever you're working with, either, like Oscar just said, pre-shopping rates, just based on what he knows or she knows as your realtor, and encouraging you to
Get second opinion.
get second opinion. So, for example, right now, rates went up a little bit. I think the average 30-year fixed is 6.83. It's a little bit up over where it was last year. This is on Valentine's Day, right? February 14th. But Oscar and I have talked about this. So, Oscar, if I go to any real major lender, I'll probably get a 6.8, maybe a 6.7, depending on if I want to pay some more points, right? Points just mean a dollar amount.
You can buy it down.
Based on the loan amount that gets you to a lower interest rate. So a point is 1% of your loan amount. So if your loan is $600,000 and it costs 1 point to get from a 7% to a 6.5, I'm paying an extra $6,000 at closing to get a 6.5% interest rate. What are you seeing with credit unions?
Credit unions actually, Ant works a little different. They have a buy down on the rate, and it's only like $3,500.
Flat, right?
Flat, and it might not get you a full point down, but it gets you half point, sometimes less, sometimes more. And you also have to understand when you're going into a real estate contract, you're under contract, and it's a legal binding contract. When you're dealing with lenders, you're dealing with documents, and whatever you sign is just a document. It's not legal binding.
Yep.
You could pull and go anywhere you want without having any legal ramifications. Now, if they want to charge you for a credit pull up front, or because they were going to pay for it, they might come after you for that. Or if they've done an appraisal and they got to eat that cost, they might come after you for that. But other than that, it's not a legal binding contract with the lender. You can definitely shop them if you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. If it's going to cost you money, forget the feelings. Have your realtor do it, because I'll make that phone call all day.
All day. Well, and I think it's something too where, and I think the reason Jameson brought up the fiduciary duty thing is like, if reading this, hearing that, I think all 3 of us just go like that red exclamation mark pops up, bing. It's like, wait a second, your realtor isn't telling you regularly, no, find the best rate for yourself.
Because our realtor just wants to get the deal done.
Right. And it's just, but that's not fiduciary.
That is
the
not
approach
fiduciary.
the approach that I use is I'll work with anybody, and I have worked with fantastic lenders that are more expensive, and I've worked with horrible lenders that are cheaper. But at the end of the day, like, I take on that responsibility for my client, right? And I will go to bat for them regardless of who they work with. Do I like to work with other people more? Yes, because I know from a simplicity standpoint, it's going to make the transaction more enjoyable. But That depends on the buyer. What is their goal? Is their goal to pinch every penny possible and get the cheapest rate with the least amount out of pocket? Then we're going to go that rate. If they don't mind spending a premium to work with somebody that potentially is going to have a better scenario, less hurdles, less surprises, et cetera.
Customer service.
But at the end of the day, our job is to just, here's the table. It's a buffet. Pick what you like. I'll work with anything. I'll provide you the plate.
You may pick a lender that's going to cost you 1/4 of a point higher, but their service is so outstanding that it's seamless and it gets you to the closing table without any headaches. Or do you take that 1/4 point less, have some hiccups, have some stresses, but you get it there? Sometimes 1/4 point might be worth paying, which at the end of the day, it's maybe $20.
So I got my buddy that I went
know.
to go visit down in Arizona. He's getting pretty serious about buying a property while he's down there. And it was funny because he, when we first started looking, he's asking for my help. Obviously, he's sending me Zillow listings like, hey, what does this look like? How does this look? And
hey, real quick, did you help him pick that realtor?
No, I know, but I want to make it easier on him.
But
where I'm going with it is he went on Zillow, right? And he's looking on Zillow. He's sending me Zillow leads. And he even asked, he's like, I want to go see the property. I was like, it's okay to use the Zillow agent to go look. That's totally fine. But hold on. But let me know. Let me know what he says.
Over here.
Let me know what he says. Let me know about your experience. The reason that I was like, yeah, go for it. And I bring it up is because he went with the realtor, had a horrible experience, right? And he was like, this guy was just talking about his own properties, his own business, the money that he makes. And then, he went and got a rate. He got looked at from a lender. And he came back and he was like, hey, dude, I'm on a VA loan and I got around 6.75. I was like, on a VA loan right now? What do you mean? And he goes, well, I went with the lender that Zillow recommended me. And I was like,
which would be Zillow home loans.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so he goes through it, doesn't go well, calls me back and he's like, hey man, I just went through and found my buddy referenced me a lender and I got like 0.2% lower. And I was like, yeah, man. Like, and the reason I say that and bring it up is specifically for the story is because that just goes to show, like, right there. And the thing that kills me, and if you guys are watching the video, you see how Oscar and Jameson just looked at me when I said, yeah, go with the Zillow realtor, right? The reason I bring it up like that is because so many people blatantly and blankly trust Zillow and Redfin that it becomes a thing where it's like, if you don't shop around, if you don't know that you can, you're going to get stuck with a shitty agent and probably with a loan and a APR rate that you're not going to like that and you could benefit from. So in that vein of like shop your mortgages, shop your lenders, please don't just take what Zillow and Redfin offer you because they're a common site.
No. There is a difference too, because we market with Zillow as a Maha perspective.
Yeah.
We are not a Zillow agent. We just market with the Zillow company. And there is a difference there. So what Charlie's saying there, Zillow has agents that they employ. I don't know here in Colorado if they still do that or not. And I know they pull that.
Colorado, they do.
They pulled from a lot of states, and Redfin does though. They do a lot of weird, shady stuff, and they go by volume and agents that don't do their own marketing. So not the best agents. They just need a job. If you take care of your real estate as a business, I take pride in my work.
Yep.
You're going to get quality over, quantity.
Don't just take what they give you, guys. That's all I'm saying.
No.
So this is a very quick.
And the reason we cringe is because if someone comes in and they're not tied in and it's a Zillow agent, I'm going to convert that buyer.
Okay.
Be like,
I want to answer this very quickly. This is another question on Reddit, and I think it's very important, especially because you got a lot of people been on the sidelines for a long time. The title is rate versus APR, and the question is, which percentage are you supposed to use to determine your mortgage? For example, my husband and I are looking to use a VA loan as first-time homebuyers. Quicken Loans is offering the following. Which percentage should we use to estimate our mortgage? I don't know why they used FHA and whatever, but for the 30-year, the fixed rate is 6.49, but the APR is 6.911. What's the difference?
The interest rate. The APR is you'll find a breakdown if you ask your lender to give you your TIL or the truth in lending. So the APR is all the rates bundled in together that averages out the rate. The interest rate is different. The interest rate's what's going to calculate your amortization of your loan. The APR is all the costs when you purchase the home, and that's when they average out the APR.
And more often than not, if you're looking at APR versus interest rate, there's a cost associated with that.
And the APR is always going to be higher.
Correct.
So and you don't calculate the same. Use a mortgage calculator.
Yeah. So in this scenario, right, when it says 6.49 versus 6.911, if somebody's looking to estimate their loan cost, what should they use?
The cost.
The loan amount per month.
The loan payment.
Yep.
The interest rate.
The interest rate,
not the APR.
No.
Nope.
Yep. So hopefully that answers that for you. APR is just the total breakdown. The interest rate, what you're actually paying for at closing. That is what is going to determine what
And
your monthly
the two documents you should always ask your lender to explain and you look at is the good faith estimate, because on there is going to be all your charges, your closing costs, everything that you're going to need to purchase your home, and the truth in lending is going to go through APR. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, right? If I'm buying down my loan to a 6.49 from a 6.911, that cost is a closing cost, so it doesn't affect your monthly payment.
And towards the end, when you're getting ready to close, look for your preliminary settlement statement, because you want to compare your settlement statement to your good faith estimate. They have to coincide. If not, your settlement statement should be lower than your good faith estimate, because the good faith estimate, if it's any higher, the lender has to abide by the lower of the two.
All right.
At least here in Colorado.
How many more do we have time for?
We got time for at least one more.
At least one more.
At least one more.
Okay, so here's your choices. Instant regret after purchasing a home. It's headline 1. Seller raising asking price after accepting an offer.
Ooh.
Option 2. This one's interesting. I sold my house to buy another house. I paid 5% deposit and signed the contract. However, I haven't settled yet. And now they changed their mind and don't want to sell. Do I get financial compensation or does nothing happen? And then the last one would be useless Redfin realtor.
You know I want to talk about that one, but I think I would like to go over the seller changing the price.
All right, we can do that.
I mean, we
contract.
could combine those two, the price and them not wanting to sell anymore.
Yeah, so we'll do the price first. And this one is around appraisals, right? So back 2 years ago, and I'm just setting the table, we had scenarios where a house would be listed at 600. You'd have 10 to 15 offers coming in, and the eventual purchase price would be 650. More often than not, people would ask for what's called an appraisal gap, meaning, well, if the house doesn't appraise for 650, we want the buyer to cover that gap, because the lender will not loan on a property that is overvalued, is essentially what it is, right? So if, let's say the house is listed at 600, the final offer and purchase price was 650, and the home appraised at 620, there's a $30,000 gap that the buyer would have to cover. Okay, so that's the premise. So here it is. This is like a Dear Abby letter. I need some advice. Also, talk to your fucking realtor, and if they don't know, get a different realtor.
Don't go on Reddit.
This entire, I don't know if you guys can see this, right? This entire question could be answered by any three of us with a phone call. Probably
within 2 minutes.
Probably over a glass of whiskey if you guys really want to just have a good time. Okay, so I'm going to read it anyway, but this is why it's important to make sure you're working with the right person. I am currently under contract to buy a home for $278,000. Again, this must be East Coast. They accepted. After inspections, we found roof is at the end of its life, and they found plumbing to be rusted in a spot where roots have broken through. So congratulations. You guys got an inspection done. Great. Appraisal came in a few days later at $280. Now, I don't know what the list price was. Okay. It doesn't say here, so that is important information. I don't know if the list price was $280 and it was $278. I don't know. No appraisal gap. So I'm assuming it was listed at $278 is my guess, right? Just based on this information. I asked for repairs to be completed, and they counteroffered a price reduction of $4,000. I rebutted or counter-proposed a reduction of $8,000 instead. So they offered it $278. They went through the inspection, and they said, okay, we'll drop the price to $274. And this person's counteroffer was, how about you drop it to $270? Okay. This buyer was going to accept the $4K reduction if they said, no, we're not going to drop it $8,000. All of a sudden, once they got the appraisal back, they turned around and said they will not go through the sale unless the buyer offers $280. So an extra $2,000.
How does the selling agent know what it appraised for? That's their first mistake.
Okay, right. So hold on. Can they do this? My realtor is saying they are asking for this probably because the seller couldn't qualify for the new home unless I accepted $280. I call bullshit because there's no way that their margins were $2,000 from being accepted on a new home. So the realtor doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Number one. This seems sketchy to me because they were very willing to do the reduction first, but now want the exact value the appraisal report came in. I also did not find a contingency stating the seller must secure a home for the sale to go through, but I could have missed it. If I have the ability to sue, is it worth it to pursue over a $2K increase or just take it? I forgot to mention all these negotiations were in writing, and currently the ball is in my court. The seller wants $280 and offering no credit. We're in a contract, and we expect to close within 15 days.
Within the contracts, at least here in Colorado,
There's many things to dissect.
It states that if it's FHA, it states that the property needs to sell for the purchase price or lower. He can't just increase it just because.
No.
Because the appraisal came in. The appraisal is not for his benefit; it's for the buyers.
Correct.
Why the agent disclosed that as his idiocracy, but
so that's an important highlight. This, okay? So here, I want to make this is very important. If
the buyer pays for the appraisal is his. It's his right to provide it to the seller if he wants to.
And your buyer, if you're the buyer, or if you're the buyer's agent, in my head, you do not tell the seller or the seller's the listing agent what the appraisal came in at. You go, if they ask, what do you say?
It appraised.
It appraised. It came in at value.
It came in at value.
There's no legal obligation for the seller or the listing agent to know what the appraised value is.
The seller can't.
Just so you know.
The seller can ask for anything they want, but
and we can say no.
You can say no to the appraisal. You can say no to the inspection. You can say
Correct.
no to any of these things. They've agreed to a certain price, and that's final.
Yes.
Now this will segue into the next one. If can the seller, are they obligated to sell? Yes. You could take them to court and have them perform. I had a buddy of mine.
You can't change terms unless it's agreed upon with the
I
list
had
price
a
of the
buddy
house.
of mine
It's
go
the
under
word
contract. Go under contract. The seller, he had two offers. One offer came in 100,000 under list, and another contract came in around list. He signed the wrong one.
Yep.
He signed the one that was 100,000 under. Guess what? They took him to court, and he had to sell for the one 100,000 under.
Well,
It's the point of a contract.
Well, and here's the thing, right? If I'm reading this, okay,
At least here in Colorado.
In Colorado, if this is a Colorado scenario, which it's not because it's a home, so that's not happening. But let's say it's a townhome, right? I'm under contract at a agreed upon purchase price of $278,000. We go through inspection, right? Now, if they want to rebuttal and say, "Hey, how about this? We want you to give us $280, we'll give you $4,000 back." Those are all also written supplemental
Because
contracts.
they're both agreeing to it.
Because they're both agreeing to it. But if the seller turns around and goes, "I'm going to give you nothing," and their counter proposal is,
And we're going to up the price.
"I'm going to up the price to $280 or we terminate the contract," then you walk away from the contract.
And you know why?
Well, and that's
and from a listing standpoint,
Yeah.
you know why they did that?
Yeah. To
Because
whack 'em walk.
now they know that the house is
Yeah.
worth more, and that they'll walk.
Well, the other
And-
piece of this too.
But they don't have to sign that.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but hey, you guys forgot another important part of the information. The inspection found that the roof is at the end of its life,
Mhm.
that there was roots growing through the sewer lines, which
Now they got
is a
disclosed.
massive issue, which now both of those things they have to disclose. So now what happens is, as a seller, and if I'm the agent talking to these people, number one, I'm going, stop, like this is dumb. They now are going to say, well, we're going to relist the house if we go back on market at $280 because that's what it appraised for. We now have to also disclose that, a sewer line replacement with roots will cost you at least $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
Easy.
Right? The roof
Mhm.
replacement here in Colorado, $35,000, easy. So
If
now
not
you have
more.
to disclose both of those things, but you want to up the price of your house by $2,000.
Doesn't sound like.
But
a
you
good
can't
move.
up it more than that because you also know the appraisal came in at $280.
Mhm.
So you can't up the price by $35,000 and then go, "Oh, by the way, we're going to give you credit for the roof and the plumbing."
I
So
mean,
don't
a
worry
smart
about it.
negotiation on
You
the
can't
listing
do
side
it.
would have been like, all right, well, what did it appraise for? Well, we don't. Why? I said because, okay, we'll do a 10,000 reduction, but now we up it a few grand so
Yep.
to offsets
I want,
everybody.
I want to talk. I want to talk to the seller and
Yep.
the listing agent just
So-
because it at brass tacks and beyond. We also don't know. We know it's after the inspection, after the appraisal.
Well,
right?
here's the deal. When it says no appraisal gap, I'm assuming that the list price was less than $280.
Okay, so let me ask. What
Also,
opportunity-
appraisal gap doesn't mean anything here because, again, and you and I talked about
Yeah.
this yesterday, right?
Mhm.
What an appraisal gap means is that if I offer at $650 and the appraisal comes in lower, that is the only time an appraisal gap agreement comes into play because the bank will not loan more money than what a house or property is worth. So when he says sweet no appraisal gap, that means nothing unless the list price was $285
Mhm.
and he came in at $278 and it appraised at $280, then yes, there's a $2,000 appraisal gap.
No,
that
way,
would need
the
to
other way
happen.
around. If he offered more at 280 and they were on the market for
Yeah,
260,
right.
then the appraisal gap comes into play.
So one, the realtor's not explaining correctly what an appraisal gap is. Number two, the appraisal should have never landed in the seller's hands or the listing agent's hands because they don't have a legal right to know what it appraised at because they did not pay for that deal. All they need to know is, yes, it appraised at value.
And they've already agreed to a price.
And if you walk in with equity, good on you. You guys negotiate correctly. And number three, the reason that's not the case is what Oscar just said. They agreed in contract on a purchase price.
It should not. And it should not matter to the seller.
Yep.
He agreed to a certain price, regardless. Now, the buyer has the right to walk or fix the roof.
So the last question is, if I have the ability to sue, is it worth it to pursue over a $2,000 increase or just take it?
That's a different conversation.
What is your suggestion?
Tally up your costs
okay.
and time. Is it worth $2,000, your time and money, to potentially get that money back? If it's going to cost you a couple $100, maybe. If it's going to cost you more money to negotiate $2,000, maybe not.
Charlie?
I think my whole question is, if I was the buyer's agent right now, I would just be like, yeah, don't do this. Only because even if you fight and you do get it at $2,000 off, you still have to pay to fix the roof. You still have to pay to fix the sewer line. So I would just cut the losses. Like, I understand that you love this property. Exactly. I understand that you love this, but there are other options out there. And why give yourself this headache just because? And I feel like this happens so much, especially now because we're so low on inventory, that people find something that they want and they go, I'm all in, I want it. And you get, again, emotionally invested in a business transaction. And you go, well, I don't care. Well, the roof plus the sewer, that's going to cost you another $40,000.
Well,
so $2,000 is not worth $40,000 to me. I'm sorry.
From a buyer standpoint, I agree. From a buyer's agent standpoint, this is what your buyer's agent should do. They should call the listing agent and say, here's the facts. Your seller wants to increase the price by $2,000. My buyer does not want to pay an extra $2,000. If we walk, here's what you're left with. You're left with a property that appraised at $280,000. Congratulations. That also has to disclose that you need a new roof and you need new sewer, which by my calculations, based on the vendors I've worked with, $35,000.
Yep.
So now what's going to happen is you're going to go back on the market. You may get another buyer that is not as desperate to get this property, that is going to demand a $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 price decrease anyway. Not only that, now the house is going to sit on the market for another 30 to 45 to 60 days, and you have to go through this entire process again.
And you're going to send a mortgage in.
Is that worth your seller's time, or are you guys good with just giving us the $2,000 and being done with it?
Yep. Yeah. At the same time, I'm sticking with just walk at that point.
But I'm saying the point is, like, the agent should be reaching out and laying this out because we talked about it, right? There's agents that are really experienced, agents that are not experienced. Sometimes it takes us the effort to lay out the argument so that they can then take it to their seller and go, hey, you know what? This actually makes a lot of sense. You're going to lose more money by walking away from this contract than just giving them the $4,000 that they want and calling it a day.
And it's scary that some of the agents that don't know what the hell they're doing sound like they do.
Exactly.
An agent offer on one of my properties and put in the couch and the TV in the contract. We do not add
All right. So I want to do one more.
And she sounded legit, and I told her to rewrite it.
I don't think we have time for one more.
All right.
But I will say, maybe
this is an easy one, though. Here's an easy one.
All right, go for it.
New construction is offering a 3-2-1 buy down starting at 2.99%. Is this a good idea?
Yes.
Do it.
The builder is offering a 3-2-1 buy down with an FHA loan at 3.5% down payment. First year interest is 2.9, then 3.9, then 4.9, and then 5.9 for the rest of the loan. On a $415,000 property, it will cost $18,000 closing costs. I have to pay and a $14,000 down payment. I feel like I can make the payments, but I would like to know if it's a good deal to take.
Absolutely, it's a good.
Well, here's a caveat, though. Well, no, I'm reading this. I'm reading this.
I know, but the highest it's going to go is 5.7%.
No. Check this out, okay? So normally, if a builder is offering 3-2-1,
they're paying for it.
They're paying for it.
Yep.
This is saying
that they're paying for it.
That the buyer has to pay $18,000 in closing costs to get that 3-2-1 buy down on top of their $15,000 down payment.
They should be doing a $15,000 down payment and at most another $12,000. Let's say 3% of the purchase price. The builder should be covering the buy down.
But again, I do think that's a conversation though.
Why?
That's because it's again, it comes down to is it worth it for you?
Exactly. But what would make it worth it? Depends on how long you're staying in the house, right?
At the same time, but if you're going to have to come out of pocket another $18,000 anyway just to go with this builder, get a 3-2-1 buy down, if you're willing to spend that $18,000, why not look at a non-new build with a different lender and take that $18,000 and do it yourself if you're going to do it anyway.
If there is a builder offering a 3-2-1 buy down, they should be paying for that cost.
Mhm.
If you have to pay it, all that means is you can, like Charlie's point, take that $18,000, get a
I think they're
3-2-1
probably
buy down
confused
with any other fucking
because
lender.
no builder is going to offer a 3-2-1 buy down and not pay for it.
But
the
this
agent's
is
not explaining to them.
and this is why I think it's important, because if somebody just says, well, if I can pay 2.9% year 1, 3.9 year 2, 4.9 year 3, and then 5.9 is the current loan, which 5.9, this was 3 hours ago. 5.9 is significantly below.
Yes.
Okay. Which means, to Oscar's point, I would be willing to bet that this is being communicated incorrectly, and the
not by
buyer
an
is under
agent.
the assumption that they have to pay the $18,000 for the 3-2-1 buy down, which means they're either not working with a realtor and they're only working with the builder agent, or they are working with a realtor that is not explaining how this works. But then the reason, the red flag for me is that the permanent 30-year fixed after the first 3 years is 5.9%. That is an unheard of rate right now, which means the builder bought that rate, which means the builder is paying that 3-2-1 buy down.
And their documents and contracts are not the same as ours, so maybe that agent doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. It's going to be in there as a cost.
Yes.
But the incentive might be $24,000 to cover some of the closing costs and the buy down.
Well, and I think
it's not coming out of their pocket. It looks like it's coming out of the pocket, but there's another section that's going to say the incentive of the builder is a higher.
I think this is a callback to last week, though. One of the myths that we covered was,
He's
do
a
I
realtor.
need an agent to buy a new built home? The answer was no, you don't need one. But if you had an experienced agent in this situation, the second that comes across and
take care of that in 2 minutes,
they go, bing, wait a second, red flag, got to pay attention to this. Right?
Literally why that's why I wanted to call it out, because I'm like, on the surface, it seems like, it's a good fucking idea. 2.99%, absolutely. Under 6% for 30 years, sure. Wait a second. It says it's going to cost you $18,000 in closing costs. Hold on.
This is like one of those questions on a test where it's like you have to really read the question.
Yeah.
Because it's that
all
one
the
word.
following are correct except.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because at first glance you hear
you said it too.
I said it. Yeah,
but
let's
you
go
didn't
for
have
it.
this information.
But
So once I read through it, both of you guys were like, "Well, wait a second. No, the bill."
Interesting.
Yep.
Very, very interesting. But I mean, this is fun. I
like
this.
these.
I
like this a lot.
I think we have
It
to
was
do this
time.
a little bit
Yeah,
more.
it was a
This
good
is
time.
great. Let us know what you think about the topic, guys, and how it goes. I think this is a great
Real estate served via Reddit on the
on the
rocks.
But
Thank you, Reddit.
right? I think it's. But again,
I got such a good.
I love it.
Good one rock takeaway.
I love it because it's this is insight into the public and what people are going through.
Yeah.
But as always, guys, like I said, we after we talk about the topic and go through it, we always give our one rock takeaway for the episode, which as always we try and keep concise, but it's us three. And
It is.
we've been drinking some bourbon, so we'll see how
talkers.
it goes. But our one rock takeaway is just a short grab, a little snippet of what we think to kind of round out the episode around what we talked about. Who wants to take it?
I'll do it. Not all realtors are the same. Oh my God. I always think that a lot of the stuff that I think is common sense, man, there's some dumbass agents out there. I'm sorry, guys. I don't really like ragging on our industry, but there is some agents that don't know shit.
It's
When
not
the-
dumb, dude. I think
When
it
the
just goes.
threshold is $350 and 2 tests,
You hit it.
I'm
Hit it.
sorry.
Nail on the head. The threshold to entry, the barrier to entry is too low.
mm-hmm.
Plain
Yeah.
simple.
Absolutely.
The cost is too low.
Yep. Okay.
Absolutely.
You want to go?
wanna-
You
No,
want me to
you go.
All right, cool.
I'm still thinking.
So number one, I agree with Oscar. Charlie knows this about me. I have a 10% rule. We can have a whole Dinks and
Dinks and Dilfs.
Dilfs episode on that 10% rule. But here's what my biggest takeaway is. Reading Reddit, actually just reading headlines. Everybody hates real estate agents. They're obsolete. They're ambulance chasers. They're not worth their fucking money, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Reddit to me is the internet of the people, right? And my rock takeaway is, guys, I have 10 questions on here from 6 minutes of browsing through Reddit, which tells me, and these are all home buying questions, as you guys have seen, tells me that people have questions on real estate, which means a vast majority of the public does not feel comfortable in a real estate transaction. Okay?
And they shouldn't.
That's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two is some of these questions, I am assuming a realtor is involved, which now leads me down the road of who you work with matters, and realtors matter in general, because these questions, if any of my clients asked me these, they would have no qualms about purchasing a home. So for all the people that are like, well, realtors are bullshit and they get paid too much and this, that, and the other. If that was truly the case, this entire Reddit thread would not exist. But it does, which means that expertise, experience, intelligence, negotiating skills, all that stuff matters to people. And that is why I think in 2023, the largest percentage of home buyers and sellers chose to use a realtor during a transaction at 89%. So my one rock takeaway is this. I wish you could cue the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving. Realtors are not going anywhere, especially and specifically the ones that care about their clients and know what the fuck they're doing.
I think for me, my one rock.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving. I think for me, the thing that, and in the same vein as Jameson and Oscar are talking about as far as who you work with matters, it blows my mind that some people, an entire thread of Redditors of normal consumers.
It's like a whole section, dude. Like
right?
there's like 47,000 questions.
It
just in the last year.
It blows my mind that so many people are willing to just shotgun a question about the biggest purchase they're ever going to make in their life to a bunch of random people on the internet and just hope that one person has enough experience rather than just, I'm sorry, but go on your Facebook, go to your search bar and type in realtor. Everybody who is a realtor that's on your friends list will pop up. And I guarantee you, those people will most of the time give you better information than the 12,000 people that you have to sift through that are answering on Reddit.
I agree that I think there is a value in collective intelligence,
absolutely,
right? However, if I'm
right,
but if I'm going to look for collective evidence in an industry that I only have experience with once every 5 to 7 years, then I'm going to go collective intelligence of people in that
if you're willing
industry,
to ask the question
bro,
on the internet,
like
we're in a group called the Colorado Real Estate Industry Collective on Facebook. Over 250 real estate agents. Like, go find that. Yeah. Join that. Ask the question in there. And I get it. Real estate agents, they're annoying. And half the time, you don't want to get the phone call. You don't want to get the emails on that. But if you're willing to write it anonymously, just do it on a Facebook page full of realtors and get just a little bit closer to a better defined answer. Right? And that, I guess it's just, I'm a fan too. I do research all the time on the internet. I love the community aspect of it. But with something that's so important as a home purchase, literally your savings, your life savings, like just put a little bit more effort in, especially if you're online.
I'm not, and maybe because I'm from the old school. I'm a car guy. I've always been a car guy. I know how to wrench on my cars. I've taken apart a lot of my cars. There was a time when I wanted to open up a performance shop. I still to this day will call my mechanic and run something by him, not the internet. I'll go on forums to see what people have added to make the cars faster, stuff like that. But when it comes to some question, I'll call my mechanic.
Yeah, but if your mechanic had a Facebook group that only had other mechanics
absolutely.
I'll take it a step further. Other mechanics that only work on BMWs. You know what I'm saying? You would then talk to those people.
Where we film this podcast is right behind a Honda specialist car workshop. Like it's like
next to them is my mechanic.
Yeah, right. And
Castle Rock Imports. They do nothing but European cars.
I'd love to. I want to know. Like I'd love to see.
This is mind blowing to me that those type of questions.
Like exist.
Like think about it, dude. There was a question. I didn't bring it up because it was the flip side of the first one that we talked about with the HVAC and whatnot. But it was from a seller standpoint, saying the buyer was requesting a $6,000 credit to replace. It could have been the two different people. Actually, that'd be hilarious if it was like on both sides, and both people represented by professionals were going to Reddit to get advice on the same transaction. So number one, you either chose the wrong fucking realtor, and there are good ones. I promise you that we give a fuck and care and are very good at our jobs. So hopefully this entices you guys to like make sure you understand, like if I have these questions on the internet during a transaction, I need to know who I'm working with. You know what I'm saying? My latest listing, this is not a humble brag by any means, was an online lead. I talked to, met at the house, talked to him, ended up being there for like 3 hours because we just got along. He knows 6 other realtors that he has talked to and goes, you are the only one that has given me straight up, honest, reliable, and good advice and insight, and took the time to put together a presentation, broke down the numbers, et cetera. He goes, so yeah, man, I got people that work at HomeSmart. I'm using you. Okay. I didn't do anything. I didn't know this dude from Adam from 2 weeks ago, but I also know what I'm doing. And Charlie can say the same. Oscar can say the same. There's other realtors out there that can say the same. I would say about 10%, because 10% do about 90% of the volume. But we know what we're talking about. And it's hard to argue against the people that don't. But when I come on Reddit and I see these questions that should be answered by realtors, all that tells me is if they are working with somebody, they are not instilling enough confidence to prevent that person from finding a second opinion on the fucking internet from strangers.
Yep.
So,
Whew, great episode.
and this is why we drink.
This is good. This is good.
I might do this every week. This is
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
This is a lot of good
I
time.
like it.
I think so.
That was a good time.
Makes feel good about myself.
Yeah. Well, plus I think it helps. Like, I think there's other people watching this. They're like, oh, I had that question too.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. And
That's
it's
good because
hey,
I don't
if you guys,
think about the dumbass questions
well, at the
because I
same
know the
time-
answers.
At the same time, hey guys, if you want to ask questions on the internet,
Yeah.
go to Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. We have a full channel
Yep. On
that
YouTube,
you
baby.
can comment on and get these kinds of questions answered.
Our
So just
TikToks.
Yep.
just move from Reddit over to us because it's free. We want to talk to you. We want to have those conversations. But I think it's time now to move into the bourbon review for today's episode. And on today's episode, we are reviewing Heaven Hill, bottled in bond, 7-year, 100 proof. And yeah, I want to take the nose on JC's glass because I have a specific feeling about this one. It's so
Me
I
too.
want to see. I want to see.
I've only had one pour. I was limiting myself today.
That sounds not fun.
All right. Not gonna lie, opposite of what I thought.
The burn stayed.
Stayed.
It stayed.
It stayed.
It stayed.
Yeah, I that's the total opposite, especially with the glass that it's
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I have a hypothesis.
And
Okay.
Wolf of Wall Street, it's not going anywhere.
I'm not fucking leaving. I think it's because it's a 7-year age bourbon.
Yes. Yes.
It's,
that's exactly
it
what I
is
was gonna say.
fermented enough
Mhm.
that ethanol is there as a defining characteristic, no matter how long it's open.
Old school.
But I like that because you know what you're getting from start to finish.
Mhm.
But in my Glencairn, it did change because I held it for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't go through it fast. It mellowed out, and there was a lot of maple vanilla
Yes.
in it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
the char is still there, but it got sweeter on the back end.
Yeah,
I repoured
absolutely.
it, and it's back to start.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a reset.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It is.
And I think this is like if you think
It's like
of
having
a,
9 lives in Mario.
If you think of a sipping whiskey,
Yes.
one that you can count on, something that you know you're going to pour it, you're going to get the same thing, regardless of time. I think that's where this one sits. And the 7-year plays so well into the drink itself because it complements that flavor evolution of it. And I agree with both of you. This is still my first pour. And
You're a stronger man than I am.
I got filming I got to do after this, but
I was only going to stick to one, but I had a half a pour.
but for me, I like that maple on the back end.
Yeah.
I like that sweetness. I think
Agreed.
that this would lend itself so well to a cocktail, regardless of what you're making with it. I think that this would make a phenomenal old fashioned, a phenomenal Manhattan, even a whiskey sour. But
It has range.
yes,
It has.
It has range.
It's like
I like. The
We got
It's
fact
like a
that-
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio or like
I'm not fucking leaving.
Michael Bolton of bourbons over
Yep,
here.
yep. Or
It's got
Kenny
range.
G.
Yeah, Kenny G. It's got range.
God damn it. I got Bad Mom's Christmas in my head.
Yep.
It's like the best
I
Kenny
mean,
G cameo of all time.
Darius
Oh,
Rucker.
Kenny G,
come
get
on,
the
he went
fuck
from
out of my
Hootie
house.
to
Darius Rucker.
Or Darius Rucker. Yeah, he went from
To
Hootie
country,
Blowfish
come
to
on.
country.
Well, and he just did a rap song.
Oh,
with that guy,
yeah.
like-
fuck.
and he went
Post
to jail.
Malone.
Post Malone.
Post
Post
Malone
Malone.
went full country from
Yep.
rap. I mean,
Yep.
But
Nelly?
Post Malone's he's talented, man. He's a talented.
He is
dude.
real
Yeah.
talented.
I'll
I will
give him
say-
his rating right now. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Do it.
Because I hadn't tasted it in a while, and my palate evolved a little bit. It's my wheelhouse. I like it.
I kind of figured it would be.
Well,
I like
and our rock rating, guys, if you're listening to audio, if this is the first time watching or
Yes.
listening, our rock rating is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, because the more rocks you put in a drink, usually the worse that the whiskey or bourbon is. So as we label them, as we give them our rock rating, if it's lower, if it's closer to 1, that means it's better. not worse.
This no BS. It is what it is. You get what you get. It stays strong. It doesn't evolve into something else. At 3.5.
Yeah.
What's the price?
What's your rating?
I want to know the price before I go rate it.
Nope.
I don't
No?
care about the price. It's 3.5
Okay.
solid.
Okay.
Whether
On a
it's
rating.
$5 or
All right,
it's.
let me.
I
all
like
right, all right.
playing the price game because, like,
If I had to cap it,
yeah,
I would say somewhere around the 60 to 70 range.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. $60 to $70.
Okay.
For this.
Because it's a solid bourbon.
Yep. All right. Let me get another sip in here. Like I said, this is still the first pour. For me, I think at 100 proof, the mouthfeel is amazing. Yeah, I've only had one of these guys, but again, it's not heavy on the mind as far as the effects that you get from alcohol. It's easy sipping, lends itself to a great conversation as always. And we play into our ratings all the time. I think I'm gonna go a little bit better than you, Oscar. I think I'm gonna give this one a 3.2, especially because that sweeter finish for me is phenomenal. And like you said, you pour it out, you get that second one, even the second sip, like the difference between the first sip and the second sip,
Yep.
night and day. And if you can count on a bourbon to where you can let it sit with no rocks, you can hold the glass, and then you get the evolution of the flavor, you get the changing of the bourbon as it sits in your glass. But then when you re-pour it, it goes right back, like you were saying, right back to the original. I think that lends itself phenomenally to a bourbon, especially 7-year, that it's not tart, it's not overly, just
It doesn't
oaky
say
and
processed.
yeah, no, and like I said, it feels good when you take a sip. It's light on the tongue. Yeah, I'm sitting with a 3.2,
Yeah.
if not even a 3.1 on
yeah.
this one.
I think the balance between the vanilla, the caramel, the spice, and then the oak and the char, like it's predictable.
It's a bourbon.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's
a bourbon,
predictable.
yeah.
And we've had a lot of bourbons that have evolved and changed, and the flavor profile has changed. The burn, like the aroma has changed on the nose. Like this has been open now for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yep.
Roughly.
Yep.
I can still smell the 2 burned distilleries and the 7 bourbon.
I can smell the heartache.
And the flaming river of whiskey from 1996. So it's good. I'm going to ask you something though. So I'm going to give you the price.
Okay.
52.
Gee,
That's good.
yeah. Phew.
Right?
Ooh.
Does that change?
52 where?
Ooh.
Huh? Crystal
52.
Valley.
That's good.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
it change?
Damn. Oh, damn.
Yep.
Okay. Doesn't make sense though. It comes from larceny. There's a background with larceny.
And we fucking love larceny.
Yeah.
But $52.
I don't think
for a
larceny-
7-year bottled in
Damn.
bond bourbon.
Their whole group, there's not one that I don't like.
There's so
I
old
don't hate any of 'em.
for comparison.
Wow.
For comparison,
Wow.
Old Forester,
Yep.
which we had the Prohibition, right,
Mhm.
which is great. But Old Forester bottled in bond is 64.
I mean, shit.
It's good.
I'm at a 2.8.
I would say
I'm gonna
I was
do it.
going to say that
The
price
only
point.
the only reason I went 3.5 was the profile of the earthy herb
Sure.
side of it comes in a little bit higher
Yeah,
than
agreed. Agreed.
my liking.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's just solid. bourbon.
I with the price, I'd have to go down to a 2.9.
Yep.
Below 3, only because like again,
$52, dude.
yeah, $52 for that kind of a flavor, and that
There are 80 proofs that we've had that are
Yes.
over $52.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say 52.
That's
As far
good.
as like
Yeah.
bourbon drinkers go, I
Yeah.
think this is a bourbon
A
drinkers
$52,
bourbon.
2.8, 2.9.
You could have this on your patio, smoking a cigar,
100%. Yep.
just cocktail. Hey, come
Yep.
over, let's have a chat, pour it in.
Mm-hmm.
Have a chat about real estate and
Preferably.
buying or selling.
I like
Now, if you come to my house and you're not a client, no, don't talk real estate.
it.
Yeah, but you know what happens? They ask anyway.
Yeah.
'Cause they
everybody-
know.
Everybody. Oh, you're a real estate. Oh, how's the market looking right now? Jesus Christ.
It looks
Where
like
do
this.
where do you want me to start?
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on another episode.
a good
Remember,
one.
it was.
a
I
good
liked our Reddit questions.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a really good
I'm
one
gonna have to
with
open up
with a
another
great
Reddit.
bourbon. But as always, guys, you can find us on YouTube. Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. We stream everywhere. So Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can find us on all of those platforms at any time. guys, thank you again for the support on TikTok. We're figuring out our live situation so we can bring you the best kind of audio and quality there as well. But ask us questions, bring it up. Again, on our YouTube channel, it's not just the podcast. We do new home tours. Check out the Parker Community Spotlight. We did a tour of a $1.2 million home, and
shout out Cardell Homes.
Shout out
Cardell's a good home.
Awesome video, if I do say so myself,
dude. Fucking
great shots and all in all of it. Good explanations. But you can find all of us independently on our own social medias. You can find me at That Lifting Agent on TikTok and Instagram. Oscar
the Realtor, OscarTheRealtor.com, and Oscar the Realtor CO. It's the only difference.
The Colorado real estate guy.
Easy. And as always, guys, I produce all the videos, the podcast on the channel. So if you have any questions about videography, if you're looking to do any kind of video marketing, reach out to me at BGD Productions CO on Instagram, or shoot me an email, send me a direct message, Charlie Sardelli on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. And yeah, guys, just keep tuning in. And we're excited to be here for you. And send us some bourbon recommendations, some places you want us to go, topics you want us to talk about. And if you do want to talk about them online, come to us, right? But on that note, you can always reach out to us at 24/7, text message, email, resotr@themilehighperspective.com, or give us a ring.
303-578-0263.
And guys, we will catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.
On the flip side.
Oh.